Yo, it's Steve. It's episode 266 of GI Joburg, and today we're talking off-duty activities. What do the GI Joes and Cobra agents get up to in their spare time? But I'm not alone. As always, I got my buddy Paul, Deadly Pencils, in the mix. Hello, Paul.
I am here. Wow.
Paul
Despite
is
ESCOM's
here.
greatest efforts to make sure that I'm not here, I am here. So,
Yes,
woo.
sadly, I have to apologize. Rob's going to be a little bit late to this broadcast. But you got the two of us, and a special third member, a guest, a member of the Berg Force. His name is Ryan Sweeney. Now, if that name rings a couple of bells, well, you're not going insane. He has been an absolutely prolific member on the Berg Force comment threads, so on podcasts such as this, elsewhere on other people's socials. I would call this guy the patron saint of GI Joe content creators.
Oh,
He
hell
is
yeah.
a supporter in voice and in deed and in material. I mean, he has helped us get ourselves to JoeCon in 2018. He's been a firm supporter of GI Joburg and everyone out there. And he has got a podcast of his own. The link will be in the description below, but it's called The Island of Misfit Toy Collectors. Ladies and gentlemen, Ryan Sweeney. Hello, Ryan.
Hey guys, I don't know if I can live up to this now after that introduction. Man, that was awesome. Thank you.
Dude, I swear, like every time I see someone going live or a comments thread, whether it's Full Force or us or over on the Facebook groups, there's always support from you. There's always Mr. Sweeney bumping the signal. So yeah, dude, it's been a long time coming to have you on the show, and I'm thrilled that you had the time, made the time to come on an episode of GI Joburg.
Absolutely. Love you guys. I've been a big fan of yours for a number of years. You know, I blame you guys for getting me into all of this, which is a good thing. Um, this is just
To
a really great.
elaborate.
The only other person I think can think of who's in more chats than me is Gaz. So big shout out to Gaz and Matthew Comstock as well too.
Yep, members of the Berg Force as well, and they are in attendance.
Woo.
Hello, gentlemen. So, Ryan, you recently celebrated a birthday, and since you are a member of our Patreon, Berg Force, this was a great idea, actually, started by Andrew Creech, MCDJ ACDC, another name that you'll see pop up on all the boards. He suggested that perhaps if the members so wished it, they would come on to the episode that was in the week of their birthday. I mean, obviously, there's no obligation, but it did give us a great excuse to get you on the show. So I'm glad we could make this happen. Now, as anyone who is a longtime fan of GI Joburg knows, we need to get your GI Joe or Cobra identikit. So, by way of introduction, I want to hear your favorite GI Joe action figure, your favorite Cobra action figure, your favorite GI Joe vehicle, and your favorite Cobra vehicle. They could be current, they could be from your childhood. Go crazy, Ryan. Hit us with the good
That
stuff.
easy. The favorite GI Joe is Stalker.
Mm.
Favorite Cobra is Zartan, of course. Favorite Joe vehicle is the Sky Striker, which is one of the first GI Joe vehicles I ever got. Loved it.
Yes,
Cobra
sir.
vehicle, it's the Thunder Machine. It was just cool.
Outstanding. Definitely. 5-star vehicles, both. Now, in terms of the figures, or we're talking characters, right? But is there a certain version that stands head and shoulders above the rest when it comes to Stalker and Zartan?
Zartan, it's version 1. That color
Mm-hmm.
change feature coming with the Swamp Skier. Just in 1986 to see that action figure with that color change feature with the little vehicle that could come apart, it blew my mind. And of course, when you read his file card, I just remember reading it over and over and over and over again, and I just gravitated to that particular character. And with Stalker, he's from Detroit. He was the Michigan boy, which I live in Michigan, with his backstory as well too. And then in the comics, in the beginning, he really was the platoon leader, and he reported up to Hawk, where everything changed in the Sumbo cartoon. So, Stalker had that strong leadership, and then of course, he worked with Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes in Vietnam. So that always endeared me as well too. But version 1 Stalker for me, even though the Arctic Stalker is probably one of the Chef's Kisses action figures to ever come out.
Yeah, man, you can't beat a classic. But as far as a deluxe figure goes, yeah, Tundra Stalker, beautiful. I mean, you definitely get a lot of bang for your buck with both Tundra Stalker and Zartan being like a deluxe figure too, with all the stuff he had going on for him. But yeah, look, I'm a V1 Stalker guy myself, and ironically, like Zartan and Stalker would be my top 2 picks for Joe and Cobra. So we're birds of a feather, on.
Good taste. Good taste.
Outstanding taste.
I just love that
Paul.
you dig the Thunder Machine, man.
Oof.
So.
He digged it enough to send it our way, pal. Ryan's Dreadnought Thunder Machine resides in my grubby little paws, and actually, of the sampling of toys I was able to truck with me cross country, it's with me at the moment. I intend, Ryan, to shoot the Dreadnought Thunder Machine on the Singapore Grand Prix track, because that's, I mean, as long as they're not racing Formula One down there, the public can access it. So when we go to visit Kim's folks, I'm going to take that puppy down there and maybe do a few laps.
Yeah, and that's a cool track, actually, the Singapore Grand Prix track. Or racetrack.
I don't know. I'm not a Formula One kind of guy.
not
We're going to get into
yeah.
GI Joes and their hobbies on this episode, actually. So maybe motor racing, motorsports will come up.
The only thing I'm going to say, Steve, is once you do that and you post that video, if anybody is thinking of getting a Thunder Machine, buy it now. Because what happens is on eBay or Macari, whenever those Joburg episodes come out, those prices are going to double. Just warning you.
Well, in the case of the Thunder Machine, maybe it'll be a mild swelling because it's already a sought-after vehicle. But like, I've always wanted to make it our thing to like champion the little guy or champion the toys that like no one seems to really want too badly. I don't know if the Renegades have increased significantly in value since we featured them. But hey, as I say, it's always nice to champion the less loved toys.
When you guys did that Silver Mirage video, that was just so crazy and ahead of its time, and how you filmed it, like, just going through the streets at night. It was like, this is freaking amazing. Like, why didn't anybody ever think about doing something like that? They're toy commercials.
Trust a super fan to pull one out of the vault. I mean, the Silver Mirage, that's an oldie, man. That's an oldie. But I guess if you're citing it, it must be a goodie. But yeah, dude, I was cycling around the mean streets of Cape Town shooting my toy motorcycle. It's good fun. I got shouted at by a couple of vagrants, as I recall.
It was brilliant. Just absolutely brilliant.
Thanks, pal. Thank you. So we have a secondary topic before we get into talking about GI Joes and their pastimes, and it's something that I want to bring to the table. But Rob actually suggested the idea of GI Joes and their hobbies and what they get up to on their off-duty hours. So I'm going to wedge this one in there since he's not here at the moment. I wanted to know from each of you guys, what was your most bizarre or weird or out of left field like collector impulse? Firstly, the first part is one that you stopped short of acting on. Like maybe you had a taste for something and you were like, I'd really like to add some of that to my collection. And then eventually you got cold feet. And then the second part is, when did you actually jump in? Like, was there a strange collecting slant that actually grabbed your attention and then actually grabbed your dollar? Like, so Ryan, do you want to kick this one off, pal?
Sure. So the one that I chickened out on was Wheeled Warriors, Jason the Wheeled Warriors, the toy where you could, take apart the vehicles, put put them all back together. The bad guys were like plant-based monsters, and I started to research some of those because I remember having those as a kid. And the more I started going through it, I'm like, this is going to be just stupid, crazy expensive to find these things. Just don't do it. Stick with your Joes. And I chickened out on it just more so because trying to find all the pieces and being a completionist, I knew it was a rabbit hole that I didn't want to go down. My other thing of actually what I do collect is YouTube channel decals or stickers. When somebody has like a Teespring or anything like that, I buy their decals and I actually have them on my office wall. So I am a 7-year-old or 8-year-old kid again with all these decals all over my office wall right now.
I would love to see a picture of that. It's kind of cool, man.
I can relate to that. Not that I actually end up buying the stickers, but I always want stuff like that because I love having like stickers. I can feel you on that one, totally, dude.
So I'm gonna turn my camera on.
Oh, we're gonna get a live presentation.
So my newest one, if you can see it at the top, is Slaughter's daughter.
Sweet. Hey, Kelly.
But like, the
I see
fat
the polar
electric
battle bear. I like the fact that you've got a little bit of air between each of the stickers because you get to see the whole thing, like what we typically see with like a skate deck or someone's pencil case is like all the stickers are kind of collapsed onto each other like a big collage. But this is cool, man. This is kind of graphic. It really does do happy things to my brain. Sick. A Dreadnought sticker, polar battle bear. Man, that's cool. Snowcat. Very nice.
Yeah, and I do have I have coffee mugs too. So I do have Joburg coffee mugs. So I can support you guys.
The apparel. Excellent.
That I do know. And Ryan, that is so cool. So, it's awesome. Like,
for me, I stopped short of getting the Resident Evil Toy Biz action figures. I was on a bit of an old school kick because I was playing Resident Evil and then Resident Evil 2. Thanks to you, Paul, you got me that PlayStation Mini. And I thought to myself, well, they're rudimentary figures. Like they're really colorful and interesting and old school, and they came in 2 packs each with like a zombie or a zombie dog, or like there was just something very toyetic about this collection. They each had like a gimmick, like a point and shoot, like draw their weapon and shoot. Like they tried to emulate basically what the character sprites did in the game, which is always going to be fun. But like Toy Biz toys of that era were pretty chintzy. They weren't hyper articulated. They were pre-posed to some degree, a little bit of articulation, but they only really looked good in 1 or 2 poses. But they were the first Resident Evil toy collection. So I didn't want to get my hands dirty and like research what the best Resident Evil toys were. I wanted the stuff of the era because it had that air of like original to it.
I still feel that these are the best.
Things,
sorry, man.
but they are, yeah, they're fun, man. And let's not lose sight of the fact that they have the angelic glow of being featured in Toy Fair of the day. Like that magazine just added such an incredible like urge to buy. Anytime they had a pictorial or anytime they worked toys or toy photography into their pages, which I mean it was Toy Fair, of course they did it often. The toys featured would always kind of take on this special veneer, like it was the must-have stuff. You look back at some of that stuff and you think, well, I'm glad I didn't bite the bullet. But yeah, look, as I say, I stopped short of actually going down this rabbit hole, but who's to say I won't in the future? The idea of a maggot-riddled zombie dog that explodes into basically its own guts. That's a cool feature, man. Yep. Is it on eBay?
Oh,
No, I'm just checking
walnuts.
some comments. Sorry, I'm losing my mind. Okay, Paul, do you want to throw one to the cauldron, or should I just
Ooh.
roll on into the
Okay,
collective
I'm
bug
gonna.
that I've? Yeah, do it.
Well, I'm gonna go into a near miss that I've
Yeah,
had.
do.
So actually, yeah, and it's kind of like actually two near misses in one. So the one thing that I do want, and I still want one, is a Power Ranger helmet. Okay, I want my very own Power Ranger helmet. I want either the Tiger, the White Ranger, or the T Rex, the Red Ranger from the original Saban Power Rangers that came out. And I then was getting like into getting myself one of those helmets, and then I started going, hey, you know what would be cool? Maybe I should get myself a set of like Power Rangers, right? Like that would be nice. Just have the original five, and then the Green Ranger and the Dragon Zord, and then maybe get the White Ranger. The whole thing. And around that time, Super Seven, they're doing their new premium Power Ranger line, and I think they're scheduled to come out around the time of us recording the show, and I started like pre-ordering them on BBTS, and I started like, okay, budgeting and how am I gonna do this? And then I just thought, no, I'm not gonna do this, because what had happened is I got into the Ninja Turtles by Super 7, which I'm finished collecting now, thank God, because they're quite pricey and they take up a lot of space. And I was like, okay, well, you know what? How am I gonna afford my Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers and still get the GI Joe stuff? And I gotta say, this is one instance where GI Joe saved me from buying something else, because I think GI Joe, just about a month or so after the Power Rangers announcements, we started getting all the GI Joe Super 7 announcements, and I was like, ooh, better get ready for this. I might have to get some of these, or whatever's, let's see if they look cool. Now I'm comfortably sitting in a situation of, well, I'm only buying vintage GI Joe, cherry picking the classifieds like a beast, and trying my very best to avoid Super 7 GI Joes and everything else that's got GI Joe on it that's coming out from all of these companies, because they're making cool stuff. So that was at least one near miss. And then the second near miss was kind of the Super 7 GI Joes as well in there. But yeah, that's me, dude. You said you got some kind of weird collector kick that's sort of happened now? So what's that about?
Well, I think you know where I'm going, Paul, because it's none other than. Well, this was actually prompted. Yeah, you know it. We also, of about the same era, the X-Men Toy Biz collection, and particularly the early 90s stuff, because by the mid 90s they were catching on the sort of McFarlane trend of heavily pre-posed figures, which have a little bit of articulation, but they only really look good in one orientation. Whereas the early Toy Biz stuff, they had a more neutral posture, so they look like, they're just more fun. The articulation is actually useful in a sense. And I've actually turned the corner
Space
on action
Wolverine.
features. Space Wolverine. Well, look, they did plenty of Wolverines. He was the Barbie of the line. He had every outfit. But I've turned the corner on action features, because sitting on my desk, like, these things have more to them than just looking cool. Each one of them has some really, really like kitsch way to, I suppose, exhibit their powers. Whether it's like flinging sparks out of their chest or having a whistle sticking out of their back.
Banshee. I got that Banshee.
It's fun. Dude, you do. How embarrassing.
I do. I was just curious. And it's a shit whistle. I'm just going to put that out there. Carry on. It's
well,
like,
I went to this.
That's an actual representation. Anyway, carry on. Sorry.
I'm curious, but not curious enough to hit buy. Look, I went to this toy fair 2 weeks ago and found these guys bagged, complete, and in played with condition for like $10 a pop. And I didn't pull the trigger, and I kick myself for not. I have non-buyer's remorse, if that is a thing. So I've ever since been hunting them, and I managed to get the Wolverine in this week. The one, the sort of the tiger stripe yellow costume. This is, I suppose, his second appearance in the toy line, but this is like the more classic I suppose it pays homage to the cartoon series, which was coming out at the same time. It has the weird like pop in, pop out claws that actually just default to being out. There's no mechanism to keep them in. And Paul, you had this figure, didn't you?
Sorry, man. Yes, I do have that figure. I believe I still actually have him. I want to believe I still have him. Yeah.
Can anyone explain to me why he has this ratcheting clicky clack? Like, why does his waist have a ratchet?
He's supposed to flick.
He doesn't.
He's not supposed to
Is
ratchet.
it broken?
It's broken. What yours is broken. You turn him. You turn his waist to the side and you let it go, and then he does a slash action. It complements the saber tooth. Because then, yeah.
So you say, yeah, okay, because Sabretooth has the battle damage torso that heals.
Flips open. Yeah, like a He-Man.
Flips open, flips closed.
Okay.
Bloody hell, man. So mine's a dud.
Yeah, yours is just
not a
somebody
dud.
exorcisted it. What is that, Ryan? Sorry, man.
I was gonna say it's not a dud. I think if you look at those figures, and if I'm an 8-year-old kid again, those are just BA figures. I would love to have those. And I get why you wanted to buy them because, even as an adult collector, I think we get too snobby and just go, it's just a cool figure. If I was 10 years old again, I would totally buy that. But yeah, I think it's cool. We did Streamathon, and I think it was Go Figures. They did Turtles, the Playmate Turtles, and by the time they came out, I was older, and I just like, oh, those are turtles. But seeing the design and the molding and the sculpting that a lot of these older 90s toy lines have, it really makes me appreciate how awesome they were. And this is another one that does.
Yeah, it's quintessentially the animation model. Like, if you're watching the cartoon, this is the Wolverine version that you wanted. And I recall passing him up because I thought the claw feature was stupid. Like, even as I suppose, a discerning 10-year-old, I was like, don't like that. That's dumb. I want the claws to look better. But now, in retrospect, I see these toys as like the epitome of fun. What characterizes a fun toy meant to be played with. This isn't a display piece. These things were like, even back in the day, they weren't works of art. They weren't mini statues. They were so evidently colorful, exciting toys that had fun action features. So yeah, there was no pretense of them being anything more than that. And I find that I'm more drawn to that now than ever. Yeah. I've been bit by the bug, guys. Sabretooth is on the way. I'll probably not stop. I mean, Iceman's next, I guess.
Oh, they're cool toys, man. I'm so glad that you're getting into that stuff. Listen, that's one of those toy collections from my childhood that it's so wrapped with memories that even if, I love you, Steve, but I wouldn't give those to you, you know what I mean? Because they're so wrapped with like stuff. But as you're talking, I was like,
never ask.
I was like sitting here going, oh yeah, maybe I should donate some of them to Steve. And I'm like, yeah, but they're super sentimental. Even my stupid Apocalypse with his broken leg. Because the Apocalypse has got the stupidest like features. Like he gets bigger, but it looks like he's got little stilts that separate his hands and feet. Man, that was such a fun line. And that was such a fun time to be a kid as well with the Toy Biz X-Men. Like, they just did such amazing stuff.
Look, this is the kind of toy line that winds up in like a giant plastic tub in the ceiling for me. I had no idea people treasured their Toy Biz X-Men collections. But then buddy of the show, Bart Simon, drops a picture on my lap of his like Toy Biz collection proudly displayed on its own shelf. And I'm like, man, that is tasty. That is really colorful and just a very eye-popping, very 90s, very of its time kind of display. And I'm like, yeah, I want a piece of that. I'm gonna haul mine out of storage and display them. And I totally will when I get to Cape Town. Man, I had lots of that stuff. But obviously I had some big gaps too.
Toy Biz definitely amazing toys that they created. Any of the Toy Biz stuff that I saw growing up was always at like KB Toys, which was the mall toy store, and just some of the stuff they had, it was like, oh, I've got to have this, I've got to have that, I've got to have, so I completely get how you get sucked into having that. So
Yeah.
Also, I also remember, like, sorry, not to dwell on X-Men too much, but I also remember when I was into, I was just like as a teenager, and like now I'm collecting toys. Like I'm buying toys with the purpose of having them. They're not just cool and fun to have. They cool and fun to have, and maybe one day will have a value, because I was a stupid teenager and I was involved with collecting comics and stuff. So glad I got out of that racket. Anyway, I remember some of the more premium Toy Biz items, and when I say premium, I mean Toy Biz stuff that you never saw in South Africa, like Onslaught. Those figures were available exclusively at like some of the comic shops who went out of their way to import it through the Previews magazine. And I'm surprised that they actually managed to get them, because the toy companies in South Africa, the toy distribution companies, they can be like quite iron-fisted, which is one of the reasons why, for example, at the comic shop that Rob works at, they can't bring in any GI Joe classified figures. So, so you will find like some random interesting figures from the Toy Biz line when they started adding like extra articulation, like Psylocke and as mentioned, Onslaught. And then also they did a very cool Age of Apocalypse line. Well, I thought they were very cool at the time, and I really wanted them. But yeah, man, like we're looking at like 300 Rand a figure back then. That was the same price as a Sega game. Video gaming ultimately won out for me at that point, because it was harder to convince my mom to spend 350 Rand on a toy than it was to spend that money on a video game. So that's just a small tidbit there, for that. Because we didn't have everything. And it's the same thing that happened with GI Joe. So, y'all.
But
And
we were
Steve,
better for it.
We were
Don't be
better for
spoiled
it.
by choice. Yeah, you're all in on the crumbs that you find falling off the table, Paul.
Another thing that has come out recently, something that I sort of started dallying in, and I think you guys here on the in the Berg Force and on the show sort of picked up on it as well, was I was starting to get like a serious hunger for Transformers toys. That line, that Studio Series line, I think it's the 86 line. Wow. And then just before then, they did these great throwbacks to G1 Transformers, and they were like the cheap man's masterpieces in some respects, and that got me so hooked. And nothing has slammed the door shut on that harder than Soundwave. So thank you, Soundwave. No problem. Because that was close. That was like one of those other sort of odd collection things. And then also, I don't want to say this is like an odd thing, is the Shiny Men, the Saint Seiya figures. I had a goal with the Saint Seiya figures. I have almost met that goal. I don't think I'll ever complete my Gold Saints, just because of how expensive they are. But that was a serious dalliance. Like, I went quite hard into that line. I made sure I got all of the Bronze Saints, which is like 5 characters. And then I managed to get 10 of the Gold Saints, which was no small feat. To put things in perspective, when those toys were coming out, they were the same price as Sideshow collectible GI Joes. So, yeah, thankfully being retrenched stopped that one. But I'm still missing Leo and Taurus. But, c'est la vie. I've got a really great Shiny Man collection now, and I never have to buy any Shiny Man ever again, because that one is quite definitive. Yo.
See, Sideshow is one of those toy lines I'm so glad I never got into, because that's just an absolute money pit that you'd never recover from. Those 1/6 scale figures are just crazy.
Dude, totally. And the space that you need to accommodate figures of that size, it's insane. I mean, I've got 13 of them, and
gosh,
they live at my parents' place, because there is nowhere in our house that I can put them. I have I have three that live in the house here with me. I brought a Crimson Guard, a Cobra Viper, and the Baroness. They live here in the house with me, but I absolutely cannot bring in any more. If I do, I have to like switch them out. I'd have to go to my folks' place, switch them out, bring over like Snake Eyes, but then have to trade the Viper in, because I can't keep them here. Again, they're also like fragile as all hell, so you don't really want to put them out in places where they're exposed, And both my girlfriend and I smoke, and the thing is, smoke does affect those figures. It does make like if I had Storm Shadow up with these camo hoodie and everything, that camo hoodie and everything is going to start going from white to brown because we smoke. Yes, I know smoking's a terrible habit, but you don't want to keep all of your toys in boxes. You don't want to make your house look like a museum. You know what I mean? So, yeah. But I feel you, man. I know guys who collect the statues. I don't know how they do it. I don't know if they like hitmen for the mafia or something. But I've been to people's houses where they've got like 10 of those sideshow exclusive statues, those big ones that come almost up to your like waist height. They're like about what 12, you're looking at about 20-inch statues in some cases.
Yes.
I'm just like, wow, people collect that stuff. It's insane. So yeah.
It's, of course, it's whatever you can afford and whatever you like, but just sometimes it's like, wow, just the cost associated with some of that stuff. And like you're saying, I don't want any of my stuff to live in boxes. That's my thing. I don't. A lot of my modern Joes, I would have 30, Cobra Vipers, 30 Cobra Troopers, and they sat in baggies and boxes. And I'm like, I need to get these out. This is ridiculous. But I'm like, I don't have the room for it. So what do I do? And, that's when I just start selling off all my collection.
Yeah, man.
I don't know if I could ever be that decisive, Ryan. I admire you for it, man. But that's
Steve,
that's hardcore.
If it's vintage stuff, and like when I sent you my Thunder Machine, I knew it was going to a place where it would be appreciated. That's an easy choice. But if it's modern stuff, it's easy for me to go. I can sell it. But the vintage stuff, I think if I was the vintage Joe collector, I don't think I could do that because it's tied to too many memories as a kid.
I battle to sell even stuff that I'm less enthusiastic about for the simple reason that collecting is circular. Stuff that you have grown cold on, you'll come back to in like 10 years, 15 years, 20 years time, and you'll be like, oh, I want to dust that off now. I want to mess with that for a bit. It's just, there's so many memories seeped into this stuff. I find it constantly just adds to the tapestry of like our toy time. The tapestry of our toy time. The name of my autobiography. Gents, shall we move the agenda onto our actual topic? I don't know if Rob's going to be able to make it. He's gone dark on all comms, which can only mean that he's in the dark, I guess, without any Wi-Fi and probably without any battery on his phone. So we're going to plunge ahead and talk about GI Joes and Cobras on their off hours. Two forces and a wageless war. Every day they wage some more. When the day is done and they go home, what do they do for fun? Thank you, Funny or Die. I think we can all remember the Ballad of G.I. Joe. That is the most outstanding, like, musical comedy, spoof, parody. Well, yeah, it's right up there with anything by Word Burglar, but it's just iconic.
Rocking out the clarinet.
Amazing, Dexter and the Baroness. And the cast, Vinnie Jones?
Spot on. Are you kidding me? Amazing.
Anyways, we're not here to talk about that, though I'm going to weave it in at every available opportunity, you can believe me. I have a list, guys, before we get stuck into our picks. I have a list of guys who their file cards have actually given away some of the game, and they each have a particular pastime. I was wondering if you guys would play a little game with me and tell me what these guys like doing for fun when I list them. So, does anyone have any idea or want to venture a guess as to what Barbecue does in his spare time?
I don't know. Maybe he's an impromptu pizza chef.
Ryan, take a swipe.
I'm going to say he is a championship barbecue pitmaster, and
I'm liking that.
and possibly, I don't know. I think that would probably be barbecue's biggest thing is he's, a pitmaster.
So the name isn't ironic. It's actually like, yeah, he's called Barbecue because he likes flipping burgers and, well, pulled meats, smokehouse. I don't know, like what's his specialty? I'm sure, yeah, a big old barbecue master. Yeah, it's not just because he likes putting out fires. He likes setting them too. Look, I think you're on the right track, Ryan, because his file card speaks to the fact that he is a total party animal. I think of all the GI Joe roster, he's the one most likely to host the shindig. And one needs no further example than the Viper, the classic cartoon episode, where it opens and they're partying at his place. Like, the guys are wrecking his place and he's just laughing it off. Like, Alpine's shimmying down the bloody balcony, from the mezzanine onto the floor, breaking the banister. So what? He kind of shrugs it off. But yeah, the file card goes into crazy shit. Like, he can wrap his mouth around the bottom of a quart, like, Coke glass. I'm just thinking, like, what? What kind of party trick is that? Anyways, so that's Barbecue's shtick. Okay, Roadblock, this is an easy one. Come on, guys. He's into cooking. In fact, in the Devil's Due comic book, he had his own like celebrity chef cooking show. I think that's taking it a little bit too far.
Yeah.
But hey, it was the early 2000s. We'll give him a pass. Can anyone tell me what Grand Slam gets into in his spare time?
I'm a word. Probably wrote a poetry book or something. I'm just
good.
throwing shit at the wall. Wow,
No,
really?
he likes hard science fiction literature, like Asimov, stuff like that. I presume he's very much into the sci-fi stuff. So, well, ironically, his name isn't sci-fi, but yeah, Grand Slam likes to read science fiction. Budo. Do you guys know what Budo does for fun?
Isn't he a Harley enthusiast or a motorbike enthusiast or something like that?
All right, Paul, give the guests something to do. But yes, you're absolutely right.
Oh, sorry, Ryan.
No.
I'm just like, I got that right. I know that one.
Yeah, well, the file card's great. It's very kind of self-deprecating because it says that he'd be an even better martial artist if he didn't spend so much damn time with his panhandled Harley Davidson.
That's for damn sure. It's a Ford can with two wheels. Bart looks in this direction with cold stare. I look back at Bart. Sorry.
I think it's an important thing to consider because these guys are like the best of the best of the best, sir. But
with honors,
like they're also human beings. Thank you very much. So they need something more to their lives, but at the same time, like that will then steal time away from them honing their more useful skills. But I'm sure Paul's going to be philosophical about it and say, like, in art as well as in life, like you can't have a single-minded pursuit. You need to kind of distract yourself and then come back. Refocus your center.
That's totally the Paul way. That's totally the Paul way.
Master Tai Chi. All right, Ryan, what's Airtight into in his spare time and even on duty?
I'm going to probably say for him it would be puzzles or games. Just to help keep his mind stimulated.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a bit of an egghead, so yeah, I suppose something kind of cerebral. Look, the far card just goes into him being a supreme practical joker, like all the classics, like whoopee cushions and shit like that. So yeah, I guess Pure Al Steve is just playing to the obvious and saying he's probably just pranking people. Like, I imagine prank phone calls and stuff. Hans says, violin. Airtight is violin. Yeah. Actually, that's a great point. Like, who of the Joes is a musician? I mean, rock and
One of
roll,
them's
obviously.
Shockwave is a cellist, isn't he?
No. Shockwave's a
He's he's a
choir
choir
boy.
boy. Yeah,
Um,
he is the instrument. Sorry, but
Keel
who's the
Hall
cellist
plays
then?
the clarinet,
Yes.
and Heavy Duty plays the cello or the bass
There we
guitar.
go.
Is it the
Yeah.
cello? I don't know. Yeah.
I think Airtight, because of his intellect and the whole practical joker thing, I think he spends a lot of time working out practical jokes, that he can play on people.
Masterminding. Nice.
Yeah, I think maybe sorry, because now I'm delving into Airtight here. I'm thinking that the reason he plays practical jokes on people is because maybe he has trouble connecting to people as a human being, like the way that sort of people with healthier social skills, can communicate like we can communicate as people. I think Airtight struggles to do that, and I think
The
he
dude
in
lives
his
in a
bar-
hazmat suit, man. He's been practicing social distancing long before that was a thing. Like,
exactly. So
he's
he's
been
got
living
some
in
in
total pandemic
a
conditions.
human
Yeah, man.
he's wearing a human condom all the time, so he must have some very unique social issues, but also really wants to connect to people, so playing jokes is probably his way of like letting people know that he's not scary, he's not a scary thing, he's actually a fun guy, like
Well, maybe not
you're
fun,
thinking
deeply antisocial, and this is his only way to kind of reach out.
yeah.
Wow. Talking about isolated Joes, but here's a guy who will be a definite asset when you get to a fun fair dogfight because of his excellent hand-eye coordination. Is an absolute wizard at like carnival games. So I suppose like throwing horseshoes or using the carnival like pea shooter rifles to knock down targets. He's the kind of
which
guy
brings
who
me
wins the big bear.
which brings me to the dreadnoks as a whole. I think the
Oh.
dreadnoks on the side run a dodgy carnival with rigged carnival games.
There's certainly a lot of precedent for that, yeah. And are
Yeah.
there lasers that protrude out of the bumper cars?
Oh, probably. No, very, very definitely. But even more dangerous than that, it's bumper cars that don't work very well. You have to turn steering wheel right like 50 times for it to turn left. You know what I mean? So, like,
There's exposed wires that they electrocute the kids when they touch them and all that good stuff.
Sounds like a Bollywood film set. I shit you not,
you
guys.
sure Riconda applies the didgeridoo? I think that's racial profiling right there. Just saying.
Yes, for those of you who are missing out on the YouTube chat, Hans Chow believes that Rakondo is an accomplished didgeridoo player. Got enough of that shit here in Wagga Wagga land. Guys, who is the resident computer game wizard on the GI Joe team?
Ah, goody. I was glad you're gonna ask that because I actually created a list and I actually created a whole bunch of just random like side things that these guys do. And I've got this feeling that Skidmark, yes, everybody's favorite GI Joe, Skidmark
every
is
time.
actually, I think he's a champion of online esports. I think he does a lot of online esports racing.
In
Because that's like a
1988?
serious thing. Yeah. I'm just saying now because he's retired, man. That's what he does. Like that. That's kind of how I looked at it. And then before then, I think he used to hit the arcade a lot. I think he used to love puning guys in the arcade.
Credit to Gaz in the chats who has nailed it with Slipstream.
Yep.
Yes.
Slipstream's file card bangs on about how he was a video game whiz and a computer hacker who also was an Air Force jock. Amazing.
Amazing.
He really made something of himself. Yeah.
I'm so glad he didn't get into the BF2K because then he would have been no longer. He would have just been. He would have ended up being a skid mark.
Yeah, isn't it funny that how like Vector, I mean, what's his name? Maverick in the Vector jet, like he should have been at altitude, but he still got hit by that massive oil field explosion. So even the high flyers weren't saved from the BF2K cull. But next up on the list, guys, what do you reckon Copperhead and Ace have in common?
I know this one, so I'm gonna give Ryan a chance.
Card playing.
Yeah, very good. Though I'd say with Ace, it's definitely the card, but with Copperhead, it's absolutely anything he can take a wager on. Which is why I'm going
Racing.
to make him my first pick, yeah, for drag racing. He's a motorhead. I mean, if you read the file card, he's into anything with an engine. And
Motor.
also his vice is gambling. It's gambling debts that got him into Cobra in the first place. So I'm thinking he likes illegal street races.
He likes to race for
Deaths.
them pink slips.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Or anything. High stakes, money, cash grabs, like before the 5-0 arrive, that sort of thing. Yeah, that's what I see Copperhead getting up to after hours.
He's like the guy who would be like, I bet you $20 that fly is gonna, fly over and land on that.
Yes, absolutely. We all know a guy like that. I mean, my guy gambled our month's rent without us knowing to come up with his end of the rent. And he was down pretty bad, and he was going to have to tuck his tail between his legs and confess to us, but managed to make good in the end. I think he finally hit a streak right at the end. Yeah, he was at the poker tables, but
Gone in $60.
you know that guy.
I know
Paul.
that guy.
You've met that guy.
We have. I mean, even the way he got us to a ball game was pretty interesting as well.
Oh yeah, I bought a ticket.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, it was on the day of the game, and it was the Yankees versus the Sox. Come on, those tickets they were mythical to begin with, but yeah, you had to kind of get them in the scalper on the corner on the sly.
And we sat in the nosebleeds anyway, so it's all good.
Well, he got a nice seat, but anyways, whatever. We're digressing. Can anyone tell me what sport Cutter is a coach of?
Women's volleyball. I'm just throwing that out there for nothing other than it's a fun reference.
Yeah, I
I'm gonna
hear
say
women's
baseball.
volleyball, baseball. I'm looking it up now. Women's swimming team.
Oh my word! I was gonna
Hmm.
actually say that. So somewhere in the deep recesses of my mind, I knew that. Damn.
At Annapolis. Now, is Annapolis, that's where the Navy base is, right?
Correct, in Maryland.
Oh, very good. But he's a Coast Guard. Do they also have a Coast Guard detachment there?
I
Look at
don't
me.
know if
Firing these questions off at our guest, putting you on the spot.
no, I know that there's separate Coast Guard training facilities. I didn't know that Annapolis would send Coast Guard members there.
Maybe
Huh,
Cutter's
that's
just
weird.
cross training, or he's literally just there to coach women's swim team.
It's
Nice.
the only way to get in.
What else have we got? Oh yeah, Deep Six has an interesting pastime.
I collect spores, molds, and fungus.
Deep Six?
No man.
Want to take a stab at it, Ryan?
It's bottle caps. He collects bottle caps, if I'm remembering right.
I think so. On his original file card, he does. But then in 1989, he had moved on to something else, and that's the one that I'm thinking of. But you're absolutely right, Ryan. Bottle caps for sure, man. But in '89, he was cataloging whale songs. Yeah, that's his new thing. I suppose if you spend enough time down there listening, you're gonna be quite hypnotized by the wildlife.
Hey, whale sounds are amazing. Sorry.
I absolutely love that figure. I remember getting that, and I know people are like, it's the worst Joe figure ever, but...
We're talking
When I was-
84?
Pardon?
Are we talking the original or the...
Yes. No,
89?
the original. The one with just the
Ah.
arms move.
Mhm.
We used to have a show called Mutual of Omaha, and it would have Jacques Cousteau, and he would do the underwater adventures, and that's what I always think
Jacques
of.
Cousteau.
Deep Six. So I automatically fell in love with that figure.
Awesome. There was an issue of... what was it called? Paul, I read it at your place. It was a trade paperback where they had a one-off issue of Deep Six in that outfit, encountering snake armors, like at the bottom of the ocean. And this
Yes.
really cool, really taut battle.
That
And he
was
kind of
that.
had
Yeah, man.
Max Brooks, was it?
Yes, the
No.
Max Brooks. Yeah, the Max Brooks graphic novel series. That was. Yeah,
Hearts
man. I'm
and
trying to remember.
Minds.
Yes, it is hot. I want to say it's Hearts and Minds, but I think Hearts and Minds is the novelization.
Oh,
But the
yes.
graphic novel had a different thing. It also had a cool backstory for, well, it had a whole focus on spirits as well, and him having a bit of OCD, and that's what makes him such a great tracker. Man, I
The
can't think of
roster's
the.
so deep, man. You could make any GI Joe or Cobra the star of your comic slash TV episode slash feature film. Like, and thanks to the fan base, we've really breathed even more life into these guys because every one of us has our distinct favorite. And like, hint, hint, it's not always the big five or the big 10 or whatever, you know? A lot of the time it falls outside of that. And that's the beauty of this toy line. So many characters and they're all so good. Do you guys
So
reckon Wild Bill is into like ranching? I mean, with that getup.
I imagine I think yeah, I think he might be. I think he might. Well, okay, actually, I take that back. As a South African with a limited perspective on that side of American culture, I'm gonna say yeah, totally. But actually, Ryan, enlighten us. Do you think he
Well,
would be
I
into that
remember
kind
the
of thing?
Sunbow series where he was all
Hmm.
about riding horses. So
There
I
was a
can
dude
see that.
ranch.
Yes. But in my mind, Wild Bill was always that guy who would be, flying like the biplanes or just doing the crazy stuff in the aircraft because he just wanted to push himself, just to live on that edge. That's always who Wild Bill was to me.
Hmm.
I kind of imagine him like camping and being the guy who gets out the old six string and just singing songs by the campfire. That's sort of his thing. But then, like, I see the Stetson and I think to myself, well, maybe he's into Civil War reenactment along with cross country. That'd be kind of cool if they did that on weekends. Isn't Ron Rudat a big reenactments guy?
Yes.
I think he might
He
be.
did that for a number
Yeah.
of years.
Hmm. And
But
that
with
no, cross country's not one of his designs, but Wild Bill would be.
I was,
So there's some of that flavor. Maybe. Could be onto something. But anyways, guys, I've chewed way too much air. Let's hear your picks. Who are the guys that you decided to focus on and come up with creative pastimes? Ryan, you kick us off, buddy.
So the first one I picked was Mindbender. And in his spare time, he has started a all nude male review. Magic
it's so
Mindbender.
close to what I had in mind.
And he's trying to recruit some of the dreadnoughts in Copperhead to make a little bit of extra money on Cobra Island. Or was it Empire City or wherever they were in the Sunbow cartoon?
Magic Mindbender. Oh god.
Oh, man. Well,
Okay.
please, on that topic then, because I've also got Mindbender down, and I've got, like, his hobby, the thing that he's doing on the side, is he's writing a musical, which is like an ode to himself. And,
Is it called
Does that-
Tickling the Ivories?
oh,
He's a dentist.
a double entendre. But it's like,
Exactly.
yeah, I just have this like whole musical song in my head, and the one piece of the chorus is just like, he'll be like singing all these funny little rhymes and things like that, which I can't find, and I have written this. It's somewhere on my computer, and I was hoping to find it for this episode. But it breaks into like Mindbender, and then there's women in the background going,
Paul,
Mindbender.
it's stuff that you sent me for ad libs for a play motion.
Yes, it is. It is, yeah. And then I
Must
put it
be.
somewhere on a note because I was like, I'd love to write that song, And I did start
All I
writing
can
it.
see
Yeah.
is it being a number out of like the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Just absolutely amazing.
In just 7 days, I can make you a man. Please forgive me.
Rocky Horror is so
I
great.
was born to play Frankenfurter, guys. Come on.
I would pay good
Amazing.
money to see a Stephen Frankenfurter If only to tell Elliot the story much later.
Oh, he'll be in the front row, pal.
Yeah, no, he will be.
Screaming. He'll want to be on stage, pal. That's like, Daddy's dancing. I want to dance with Daddy.
Totally. 'Cause he's
Anyways,
cool.
Ryan, give us another one, pal.
So my other one is Shipwreck, and since we now have the swipe right, swipe left, I can just see Shipwreck in his free time being on every single dating app imaginable and just striking out because he still hasn't figured out how to talk to women.
Pretty cool. Some
without having to
hashtags.
pay them.
Hash browns.
Exactly.
Hash brown best sailor. Hash brown. Deep six is a line. Is a lie. You get the real goods with me. Like that. I can just imagine him like that. But then Clutch would be the same, wouldn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, but I think
Well-
Shipwreck was always just more of that slimy, greasy type of character, especially even in the cartoon for Sumbo. I mean, he fell in love with the synthoid, a girl who turned blue. It's like he's the Captain Kirk of GI Joe. Will sleep with anything.
I thought they gave him a little bit more pathos than that. Like in that episode, he's deeply disturbed when he discovers Mara is a synthoid. Like he didn't bang her, did he?
He did.
Oh,
I'm sure he did.
Did he? No, not Mara proper, not the actual like
No, the synthoid.
mermaid, the synthoid version.
He did. He did.
Man, oh man, that just feels wrong. That's like the equivalent of like sex with a blow-up doll, man. Like once you're done, where does it go?
Yeah, it's Shipwreck.
It's not.
I mean,
Well,
dirty.
this went dark.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got Dr. Mindbender doing
Sorry.
an all-male review. Shipwreck just being a dirty dog on every single dating app he can get his scrubby paws on. What depravity have you got for us in your third slot, Ryan?
so it's Duke, and he goes and he does like the those retreats where like you go and break stuff and you do stuff that's bad because people always think he's just a goody two shoes and he never does anything wrong, and he'll like push old ladies and kick puppies and do stuff like that to just make people think I'm not a goody two shoes. I can be bad if I want to.
Yeah, he gets to be evil Duke.
Evil Duke. Yes,
evil Duke.
The devils do Duke before the devils do Duke. And then I did have one more instance. Go ahead.
No, just like some people make the prediction or draw the parallel between like maybe Snake Eyes is Chuckles. I've often thought like Duke and Buzzer have a lot in common just in terms of appearance. Like Thrasher, he's also got a tan. Did it again. Buzzer has got a tan shirt. He's got blonde hair, but it's a fair bit more receded than Duke's, and he's got that ponytail. Like it feels like Buzzer is Duke, who's a little bit older, a little bit more cynical, and has kind of turned to the bad. Maybe Duke's older brother. But once again, Ron, I think you're onto something, man.
It just seems like with the Sunbow, they always made Duke seem to be, I want to say that John Wayne type character where, was the goody two-shoes, never did anything wrong. And Flint was always let me try this. Duke was more Superman and Flint was more Batman. And people like Batman more than they like Superman. And I think just with Duke would want to break out of that shell of, I'm not the all-American boy. I can be a bad boy too. Especially since Scarlet leaves him for Snake Eyes and all the other stuff.
Or does she? I don't know, man. Like that love triangle gets kind of muddy, doesn't it? I know Resolute tried to like pen Scarlet as Duke's girl. Like, she's made a choice. But yeah, I mean, look, if you're a comic book aficionado, there's no debate whatsoever. Duke never featured, but I kind of like the idea of a bit of a love triangle. It's far more intriguing. Not that every female has to be attached to a guy in the story. Maybe the more interesting option would be to like have Scarlet have a real life outside of GI Joe. That could be a pastime. Jeez.
I on that sort of topic of like weirdness that characters could do. Sorry, and I know I'm coming in at like super left field here because I've got to be careful with my list here because sometimes these conversations are chipping at my list, and I purposely made quite a long list, and I'm thankful I did because at least Skidmark came out in the conversation earlier, and Mindbender came out in the conversation earlier. And you guys know that I'm going to get into Bazooka just now, but the one thing that I think is kind of an interesting thing about Quick Kick, you know, Quick Kick is meant to be an actor. Like, that's like all stuntman, right? But I think being part of GI Joe means he cannot meet up with his commitments. You know, that industry, Steve, you know this, I apologize if I'm Paul-splaining here, but that industry is very reliant on, like, if you're not there, you know, more than once, then they forget about you. You know, if you don't make a call or whatever, you can get into a lot of shit. And I imagine Quick Kick gets into that kind of trouble. Like, I think he got to a point where he just wasn't able to make calls and stuff like that to get to adverts or whatever's. And they eventually just, you know, blacklisted him. So I think what he does on his off time and what brings him a lot of joy is he has a food truck, you know? And, yeah, and I think he does like a lot of like...
Fudgies.
Exactly. He probably has got something called a frozen fudgy that he's invented that's like really good. But yeah, I think he hits the San Francisco scene with his food truck, and you know, and maybe has some cool theatrics or whatever that goes with it. And because he is on active duty, when his food truck rolls up, should I say, it's kind of like, oh my word, Quick Kicks, you know, quick snacks or Quick Kicks, quick fix is here or whatever's.
That's
and
great.
I think people, yeah.
Quick Kicks, quick fix.
Yeah. So that's it. That's you know what I think he does on his spare time. I think he runs his cool little, you know, food truck. Yeah.
And that would make sense.
Sorry, Ryan, I'll hand over to you in a moment. But I once walked past a reflexology place called Fast Foot in China. And so I took a picture of Quick Kick outside Fast Foot. Funny. Anyway, Ryan, you were saying, buddy?
I thought Quick Kick's family owned a grocery store or something like that too. So having a food truck now would make complete sense.
Nice. Yeah.
Right.
I get good price for you, son. Fresh produce. Okay, Dad. Paul.
Yes.
Let's do it, bro. You got anything else in the tank?
Yeah, I think I've got one for Outback. I feel like Outback runs adventure tours.
No,
on his spare time.
Really?
Yeah, I think he does. And then I think he kind of got bored of that. And then what he now does is like, just as a way to help him reconnect with society. Because, you know, he is like the kind of person who likes to be out in the bush. I think to reconnect with society, because I think he struggles to connect with people, you know, that live in the urban sprawl or in suburbia. Because he's like, what do you talk to those people about? You know, I think
you're going to have him give tours for these yuppies?
Well, that's what he started doing
pretty quickly. Yeah,
exactly. That's what he started doing, and he got like really fed up with it. But he still needs to have that connection with people. So what he does is, I think he helps build houses for people. So you know, these like in the States, we don't have it here in South Africa as much as we used to. But in the States, I know there's a lot of like groups that actually get together and help people help build houses for people. You know, and I think he does that, and I think he does that on like, you know, he's like incognito with it, you know, and that's why we got that GI Joe figure of him with his little like workman's hat, you know.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Battle Core Outback, aka non-eco warriors Outback. Now we got a comment from Matthew Comstock saying that Outback is a prepper and has his own YouTube channel for it. And yes, that on the top 100 list of weird hobbies, prepping is one of them. So prepping for the pending apocalypse. But I think Outback, and I'm going to oppose you, Matthew, and I'm afraid you're not here to champion yourself, so, or at least not here in voice. So this is completely unfair abuse of my platform. But I don't think Outback would be a prepper simply because he'd think that is a laughable pursuit. Outback's way is to live off the land and survive by foraging, by surviving with available amenities. Preppers are very rooted to their shelters and their biomes with their mulch garden and their worms and their composting and organic shit. I don't know, whatever they're doing. Outback would probably sneer at all of that and be like, you guys won't last a week. Come on. Because he's kind of combining what it means to be a soldier with what it means to be a survivalist. He's just the ultimate survivor.
I wonder if Outback
naked and afraid.
I wonder on that topic of if Outback sort of doesn't have a house. I wonder if he doesn't actually have a home, and he pretty much lives on the base, and then has these lockers in different parts of the town or in different states with some of his belongings. So he knows that if he's going from if he's going to Tennessee, for example, he knows that he's got a storage locker there that he can get certain things from there, and then he kind of lives out that locker when he's there. I wonder if that's the kind of person he is. A character that I
think he's the kind of person who doesn't have these bat caves littered around the country. Oh, sorry. But he's mainly just, he understands which environments he would thrive best in. Like he knows which climate regions to aim for, which kind of areas of coastline or shelter. He knows the kind of the survivalist's best bet for eking out a survival. Not too hot, not too cold, green, lush, but not I just think he's just super savvy as to where he would find himself. He's got his kind of hit list of things. If the shit hit the fan and society collapsed completely, he'd be your man. Big time.
I like Matthew Comstock's comment here. He just mentioned he has a tiny house with caches all over the country, or caches all over the country. Matthew and I are obviously on the same wavelength, because I just saw his comment pop up as I was talking, and I was like, damn, I've got to put a spotlight on Matt for that. Speaking of, I think if there's one person that deals with yuppies for adventure things, I think it's the range vipers when they're off duty. I've got a feeling that they do that.
Sadistic.
Yeah. I think they're all you gotta be badass here in the wood. In the forest, you gotta shit in the woods. They got that whole vibe, and they're like, oh, I see that scorpion? That's dessert. And I think that's their whole vibe. I think they're quite just annoying, obnoxious human beings. Anyway, I've got another 2 in the tank actually for this.
Hey.
Yeah, so I know this is super on the nose, but I really love that the Sunbow cartoon kind of painted this character up this way. And it's actually made this character super relatable to me. But sci-fi. I really do feel like sci-fi is one of the serious geeks in the Joe Force. And I think when we've been told that we haven't been told, but the Sunbow cartoon lets us know that when he's not doing missions and stuff, he's going to things like comic conventions. And I think he also collects toys. I think sci-fi is collecting...
you preempt me. That was going to be my concluding question to you both. So sci-fi is the action figure collector. Interesting.
I feel he is. Yeah, I feel he totally is. And you remember once upon a time
he's also an academic, Paul. Don't lose sight of the fact that I think the file card bangs on about the fact that he did a master's thesis on laser alarm systems.
So then he probably also enjoys tabletop gaming and stuff as well. You know what?
See,
Some of the smartest people I've ever met in my life, I've met in a comic shop, and I'm talking about PhDs. And yeah, so
They're not mutually exclusive. But Ryan, go ahead, man. You had something to say.
I was gonna say with sci-fi, I see him being more of a cosplayer and coming up with the
Great
coolest
minds.
cosplay outfits that he can with all the bells and whistles and the lights and
it's
that's
like Adam
what
Savage.
he loves.
Adam Savage.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. He does special effects now after he retired from GI Joe.
I think that's great because that is exactly what he would do. He would find cool ways to challenge his intellect and merge his hobby, and I mean, if you just look at like, okay, shame. I'm sorry, Bart. I'm pulling you into this now. But if you look at Bart, I mean, Bart's like, he's on active duty, more often than not, and he's a huge toy collector, and he's a big nerd, and he goes in cosplays, and he goes to conventions and stuff, and that's super cool.
But
I
he
kind of feel
also
like
goes on special missions
He
in
also
the
goes on
Middle East.
there we go. And then who else is another great example of that is well, I mean, I at the comic shop I used to have guys that used to come in, and they used to. I may have told you guys the story before, but I had this one guy who used to come in and used to drop like 13 to 20K on like DVDs, like anime stuff and comic books and toys and all that kind of good stuff, because he would be he was a PMC in Afghanistan, and I'd be like, wow, like when we got to know each other, I was like, wow, man, so what do you do with your collection? And he's like, I honestly, I'm just gonna be a bit grim. He's like, I enjoy this because I don't know if I'm coming back next time, So, like, I totally get that like side of of a military branch dude. So yeah, that's why I felt like sci-fi is that guy. He's the dude that takes stuff with him. And even Brian
Well,
Hatch.
Matt says that he figures Mainframe and Sci-Fi have their own World of Warcraft guild. I'm going to see that, and I'm going to raise you. Who of the Joes, if any, do you think are into LARPing, live action roleplay? Like the folks that go into a forest in their garb, their cosplay, and roleplay Dungeons and Dragons? I don't know. I speak beyond my ken, guys, but we all know what I'm talking about. Like
I feel like Heavy Duty is that guy.
Heavy Duty?
Yeah.
In between classical guitar or cello and GI Joe, he's a LARPer. Interesting.
See,
Not Sci-Fi,
I can
Mainframe, those guys.
I can see Alpine and Bazooka doing it.
Yeah.
Okay. I see
When
that.
Bazooka's not solving small town crimes. God, God, this is gonna sound so gatekeepery and stuff when I say this, but I know that for me, when I was working in a comic shop, you get different like sort of flavors of geek, and that has changed and elevated a lot these days, which is so nice, and it's evolved well. But LARPers used to be a very different type of species of geek, and you would often hear like guys that would like they'd be like, oh yeah, I'm a total geek, I'm into collecting comics and stuff, and then somebody would be like, oh, do you also do that thing where you dress up and sword fight and stuff, and he would be like, no, I'm not that kind of geek. Like, heavens no.
A pox.
Yeah, so I got a feeling that Sci-Fi and Mainframe maybe are not LARPers, because maybe in their heads they're like, yo, no. Like, I feel like cosplay is as far as they go, with that kind of thing. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe because I mean the South African geek culture is very different to the American geek culture in that respect.
Oh, who would be down with LARPing? Raptor.
Oh fuck! He's already halfway there.
He's totally eccentric enough to want to just fly his freak flag and wear his costume, and like I don't know what character types they have.
I reckon he's a prepper.
Really?
But like a bad example. You see, when people talk about preppers, they go, yeah, prepper, and then they talk about a prep. He's a prepper. you know. And I think he's a prepper because he's one of those guys that he's mostly ineffective on the battlefield. He thinks he's something great, but he's not. He's got a shit ton of guns and all kinds of stuff in his little basement at the
Raptor?
bottom.
Uh,
Yeah, I imagine
uh,
he's like that. I imagine he's psychotic, man. I mean, the dude dresses up as a freaking bird, you know.
I don't see gun nut in Raptor though.
Or maybe
Like
he's got a whole bunch of helmets for his
he,
falcon.
exactly, he weaponizes his birds.
It's fucking
Um,
laser beams.
yeah, he absolutely is halfway there. The flowing raptor cape and the bird hat. Amazing.
But falconry is actually quite a sport in the Middle East. It's a seriously intense thing. I mean, it's long past its NDA now, but I worked on a project. It was for a company in Dubai, a guy in Dubai who wanted to do this whole animation series, and he tasked me with creating some character designs of a falconer. This dude who would have this falcon, and then this falcon would like also like shoot flames and all kinds of crap. But when we were talking about falconry and all that, he's into falconry, and he said like it's like a major thing there, and he's like, we have to get this right because people in Dubai would be very upset if we get certain details wrong, and I can imagine like Raptor is seriously into that and seriously behind that whole vibe because it is actually pretty cool. You know, sorry, I just saw Hans Charles' comment. I'm gonna read it out for our podcast listeners. Range vipers dress as Bigfoot and freak campers out. They gaslight Sasquatch hunters as well. Then they hack their phones, delete pictures, and follow them to town and call them liars and laugh at them. Yeah, dude, that is perfect for range vipers.
Trolls.
Super trolls.
Ah, yes.
And how do you guys feel about Storm Shadow? And this is by no means a reflection of the fact that I love Storm Shadow or anything like that. But
Oh
how do
no,
you
no,
guys
of
feel?
course not.
How do you guys feel about Storm Shadow running a sort of I'm gonna call it a soup kitchen, but kind of like a feed and clothe the needy
Yes.
outlet somewhere in New York? Like,
I can I can see Storm Shadow trying to take, get as much blood out of his ledger as possible and try
yeah, he's
to,
trying
Yeah.
to tone. Yeah.
you know, do the things that he needs to do to repent for all of the, savagery that he's seen and done in his life. I can totally see him doing that.
Hmm.
Mm. Because
Yeah.
I mean,
One
because in
real,
the Ninja Force. Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead. I was going to say one real quick that I was going to add, but I held back, but I want to now. In the comic books, Tripwire was the biggest klutz imaginable.
Hmm.
Mm.
So in my head, I can see Tripwire is now a championship ballroom dancer and is very fleet on his feet. And the one time he invites all his Joe friends to see how agile he is, he falls. And it looks like the same with Tripwire.
Oh, Tripwire. Oh, Tormod Skoog. What a name. What a name.
What a name. Hey,
But
yeah, I think
the
his
one
parents
the
did way
one
too much
hole
weed.
in your argument, Paul, with Storm Shadow running a soup kitchen is that you can't wear that much white in New York City, says Bob Squad.
But yeah, I think because the precedent for this is that the Ninja Force is mostly trained by Storm Shadow, or at
Hmm.
least it alludes to the fact that it's trained by Storm Shadow. But I kind of feel, and also as a practicing martial artist myself, if I was involved in like dodgy things, I might not want to teach people martial arts. Like if I caught a conscience, like Storm Shadow has. Or it could be argued that Storm Shadow's always had that conscience. He's always been
But
aware of the fact that he does.
Storm
Yeah.
Shadow's philosophy is that mastery of the martial arts is to bring about an end to violence, not
Yes.
to perpetuate it.
Well, yeah, but I think, and as a martial artist, this is actually something you wrestle with a lot because yes, you're 100%. If we are all and this might be immature of me right now, even as a martial artist, but if we all knew martial arts, and if we could all like, if we all knew that we could like, break each other, and I'm not saying that like martial arts is some kind of magic thing where you touch somebody then they explode, but I think people would respect each other a lot more
Nuclear
and hold.
deterrence.
Yeah, it's kind of like nuclear deterrence. I think that's one way of
Mutual
looking at it.
assured
It's-
destruction.
There you go. But that's only one way of looking at it. But then also martial arts also teaches you that fighting is like completely, it's actually stupid. But then at the same time, as a martial artist, you do enjoy sparring. You do enjoy, you know, fighting. So it's very complex. So I think Storm Shadow would be going through similar complexities where he's kind of like, yes, this is his philosophy, but he's proving himself wrong by being an assassin in essence and working for the bad guys. And teaching people martial arts, I think he's just scared of doing. I think he's just scared of making another one of himself. Because just now he will find somebody that is talented. He'll find that one student in 50 that's just got something special in the way they move. And as an instructor, you gravitate towards those students just because they do something right, and then you want to show them more, things. And I think he's scared of making another killer, So instead, he just helps to feed the needy and helps to clothe the needy. And because he's got the Arashikage money behind him, he can just, bring in a whole bunch of. He's got a lot of resources. Anyway.
No, I think that's brilliant, because I could see if there's one character who would humble himself to do that, it would be Storm Shadow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Agreed. Also, I love Zantaro's comment here. Cancels registration to martial arts class since I now know I can't explode heads with one touch.
Damn it.
Damn it. So good. Hey guys, that said, if you touch somebody very hard on their head with your foot, kind of a spinning motion, yeah, you could put them to sleep. So it's almost as good. Or you could brain damage them. So there's that too.
Oh, delightful.
Anyway,
I apologize for the Harley. It sounded like Budo just drove by my house, so I apologize.
Excellent. Very germane to the proceedings. But, gents, I think we're going to close the lid on our pastimes conversation. Unless anyone has any other ones that they'd like to list.
No, I'm good. I've hit my list. I feel very
back
good.
into the recesses of our brains. Well, since Rob isn't here and he can't give us his love and scoopful, I guess it's going to fall to me to pick up my favorite comment on our last episode's comment thread. And this was about video games that inspired our playtimes with GI Joe. And we kept it quite early, like the Nintendo generation. Troy Smith jumped on the comments thread and wrote us a doozy, which I'm going to read out. I'm going to flip the script a little. I propose that GI Joe influenced my gaming choices. For example, I really enjoyed Chopper Command on Atari because it looked like the Dragonfly. I know, way before your time. I pretend that Metal Gear was a GI Joe game. I missed the original GI Joe games and I never had the joy of playing them. I did enjoy Ninja Gaiden, Jackal, and Contra. The other game that I pretended to be G.I. Joe in the arcade was Operation Wolf.
Yes.
How awesome to operate that realistic Uzi with an unrealistic grenade launcher. End quote. Thank you, Troy. I remember that cabinet. Did you guys ever play it?
Dude,
Ryan?
did I?
Dude, did we? Ryan, did you have Operation Wolf?
I did not. That was a little bit after my time.
I see. Okay.
Sorry, I just got some noise outside my.
We had these chunky, like hard plastic. I'm sure you can picture them, like giant Uzis. Well, they felt giant in your childhood hands.
Your meager hands.
You're just kind of hanging off them, basically, like wrapping your whole body around this massive machine gun, submachine gun. Well, maxi machine gun in that case. And I think it had a button on the foregrip. A little red button to fire a grenade off this Uzi. Very funny.
So I just want to jump in there because it's so cool that you mentioned Operation Wolf. and I just based on the description that you've given me now, I imagine in Cape
What
Town
Troy's given you.
or Troy's. Yeah, I was gonna say that sounds like the American version of the cabinet because
Oh.
the Japanese version of the cabinet is very similar, but it's got a smaller Uzi. It's actually more similar to a Mac 10 than an actual Uzi. It is just a small Uzi, and it's got like but it's tiny, and that's the one David and I played a lot at Four Ways More. And yeah, and then you got the little button obviously for your grenades and missiles,
Look,
what have
Paul,
you.
I entirely might be misremembering. I might be thinking of like the Aliens cabinet game, which
Or the
did have a
Jeez.
very big, like, I remember it was very
Wow.
glossy black, like smart guns. No, they
Which
were
one
the
did you
pulse
guys
rifles.
have? Did you have the stand-up one for the for aliens? Did you have the stand-up
Yeah.
cabinet or the sit-down cabinet?
Stand
Because
up.
it was this.
Why?
Okay, we had the sit-down one here at Northcliffe Corner and the bowling alley,
I don't
and the
think a
sit-down
shooter
one.
should be done sit down.
But
I know
it
you
was
get
because
this like booth and it's all very private, but it's kind of takes out the like the kineticism of standing and shooting.
But do you remember that the aliens shooter game was from the dropship, from the APC? That's why they did it like that. So you're sitting in the APC and you're rushing through different places, and then you're like smashing down, and then it's like tick, 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 you got xenomorphs coming at you and whatever. That's why they did
I
it.
think you're
to
thinking of
enhance
the
the
later
feeling.
iteration. I mean,
No,
Aliens
dude.
has been in and out of arcades for well,
No, dude,
practically
I'm
since
talking
the
about
dawn.
like arcade games I played when I was like 13. Because
Oh man,
it was
nothing will
amazing.
beat the Afterburner like flight simulator that was like a pod that kind of rolled.
Oh, the G-Lock 360, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, you pay 10 Rand and you sit in that thing, and it was great. I had that at Four Ways as well. Another great stand-up cabinet shooter was Terminator T2, the arcade game. So good.
Nice.
Oh shit, we used
Now-
to play that a lot. That was amazing.
I looked up Operation Wolf, and yes, I did play this in the cabinet in the arcades.
excellent.
And it was freaking amazing. Did you guys have Commando, which was another type, shoot 'em up game like this?
The commando I'm thinking of is the top-down one. Is it that? Wait, hold on. There was one where it's like you could see the two guys on screen when you moved left and right with the gun.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's Commando. Yeah, and then it had like a Vietnamese kind of skull that was like full of fire and stuff, and my friends were all like, "That's satanic," and I was like, "Yeah, cool. Where do I put my tokens?" I don't care about that shit. Yeah.
Ah, yes. But then another one that I always loved was for my Nintendo, the NES, was Top Gun. With
Yes.
that 8-bit music was
Oh yeah.
So good.
times. Well, I fear we're in danger of having a repeat of last episode if we continue any longer on this this plotted trajectory, gents. So I'm gonna nip it in the bud and say this has been a great chat. Thank you for joining us, Ryan. Do you want to pimp anything on the way out, buddy? Your channel. The
Your
link will be in
awesome
the
channel?
description below.
Yeah, just if you want, stop by. It's the Island of Misfit Toy Collectors. We just, have fun and talk. I'd love to have some more of the Berg Force on. I'm working something out with Gaz. I would love to
Nice.
have both of you on at one time, just so that I can, pick your brains about your play patterns as kids and, all of that.
Say the
good
word,
stuff.
Ryan. We love
Yeah,
talking about
dude.
that particularly.
Yeah, I'm all
So
about
good,
playing with
good.
that plastic.
So enjoy. The Berg Force is absolutely amazing. The community that you guys have created and invited us to join is just second to none. So just a big, huge thanks to you, Rob, and Rob, Steve, and Paul again for just inviting us to join your trio and let us play GI Joe with you. So thank you.
You are very
Yeah.
welcome. I mean, without you guys, this would just be the three of us, message in a bottle style, talking into the void. So it's incredible that we've developed a very, very dedicated audience. Very you guys are our friends, actually.
And friends, yeah,
Like,
actually.
it kind of becomes awkward that you support the channel as well because it's always the same names that I keep seeing. And I'm like, but these are guys I have a personal relationship with. So thank you for keeping the lights
They
burning
support
at
our
GI
hustle,
Joburg
man.
HQ. Yeah, it means a lot, and we love doing it. And if you'd like to join the Berg Force and join these fine folks, head to patreon.com/GI Joburg, link in the description below. And for as little as I think $3 Australian, maybe it's $3 US, I don't know, depending on the localization of the exchange rate, you can get early access to these podcasts, get discount on our exclusive merch, and if you become a YouTube member, see my madness week to week as I play with my toys in front of the camera.
Yeah, in
Which
style.
Very,
those
very,
adventures
very
are-
amateurishly.
And something I wanted to just drop in because I really wanted this to arrive for our last episode, but it didn't. So between the last episode and now, I finally got the Ninja Turtles Cowabunga collection, which is full of old school gaming goodness. Really been enjoying that when I have got like 5 or 10 minutes to play. Guys, if
What are
you
the highs?
Turtles,
What are the lows, man?
ooh, dude, there are actually no lows on that collection, in my opinion. It's all highs because it's all the NES games. So it's the original Turtles, then Turtles 2, the arcade game, then Turtles 3, the Manhattan Project. Then you've got the arcade version of that Turtles game of the beat 'em up, which is so good. Yeah, I mean, I have very few memories of that because we actually only had it at Cresta. Anyway, and then it's got the SNES game. It's got the Turtles in Time. It's got the Genesis game. Sorry, just for American listeners, and then the Mega Drive version, and yeah, and then you got the 3 Game Boy games. One of which is a Metroidvania, and it is so good that it's the third one, Radical Rescue, and it's got the fighters. Take them or leave them, but the fighters are an interesting. They're an interesting sort of like departure in the Turtles sort of universe, and then there's obviously the Tough as Nails first NES game, which I've always loved. But yeah, guys, it's a great collection. If you want like some cool old
They
school
haven't
gaming,
made it any easier. Like, they haven't kind of dumbed it down to make it more palatable for a modern audience.
here's the beautiful thing that they have done. Okay, they have got these enhancements that you can switch onto the game if you want to. And the enhancements are actually very tastefully done. So you can either have the enhanced, or not either. You can do all of the enhancements, or you can cherry pick the ones that suit how you want to play. So there's God mode for like everything. So you can play the game with God mode, which is awesome for guys who maybe just want to experience that first Turtles game without dying. You can start on any level you want with the enhancements as well. So you can choose any level you want to go on. And these are great. These are great, like, fun things if there's a specific level in the Turtles games, because I know we all have 1 or 2 levels in those games that we have fond memories of playing with our buddies and stuff. So you can just jump straight to the level. And something that I really love, and as much as I'm an old school gamer and as much as I love retro gaming, I do love the fact that they've removed the slowdown and flicker at your request. So you can switch off the flicker and you can switch off slowdown. And it really is great for some of those, especially for the NES games that had a lot of like sprite flicker because of RAM limitations. So now you can play a much smoother version of those games, and that is
With God
just
mode.
wonderful.
Nice.
With God mode on if you want to. So good.
Yes,
and then it's got
please.
tons of features. It's got tons of things like the soundtrack that you can listen to. You can check out all the magazine ads. Oh, it's awesome. Guys, it's one game that I can recommend with absolutely no reservation. I'm like, just buy it. It's couch co-op. You can jam it with your friends. It's awesome.
Available on Steam?
Available, I think, on everything now. Yeah, Steam,
Yes.
PlayStation Network, the Xbox Store, Play Store, Switch even. So yeah.
Stick around for those discounts. They're coming. All right.
Hey, guys,
Ryan,
can I
once
get-
again, thank you for joining us, bro.
Not a problem. Can I give just one shout out? Some of you may know
Give more.
Marauder.
Give them all.
Marauder Ruben is recovering from a stroke. So I did talk to him this morning. He's doing a little bit better today, but he just has a little bit of a road to recovery. So if you know Ruben at all, he's part of, Classified Elite on Facebook. He's just one of the really good dudes in our community. So just keep him in your thoughts or your prayers, and let's hope he has a full recovery and he's back to doing some customizing and painting figures. So big shout out to Ruben. Love you, brother.
Yeah, man. Amazing
man.
work. Marauders has gone from like this little startup that a few of us knew about to being like an actual leader in the industry.
Strength
And
to
in no
strength.
small part to John and Ruben and the whole team. So yeah, I hope he's well soon, sooner rather than later. Thanks for bringing this to our attention, Ryan. And Rob sends his apologies. He's been powerless to join us. What else did I have to say? Oh yes, Zazel's GoFundMe is trucking along nicely. But if you'd like to send a lifelong GI Joe and Sergeant Slaughter massive fan to Joe Fest next year to meet his icon, his idol, his bro, his buddy, Sergeant Slaughter.
His man crush.
Exactly. It would be an absolutely astounding, wonderful story if we could make it come to fruition. So yes, the
Eh,
GoFundMe link will be in the description below. Right?
And to add to that, Zazel's going to be doing some, filming all of this, and Kelly Sarge's daughter is going to put him through some Spartan training.
Oh
So
no.
Really? Cool.
it's going to be funny. So please, let's get him there just so we can have some enjoyment of watching those videos.
Funny, man. When I first met Zays, we got it in us to do a hike once a week. But of course, at the end of the hike, we wound up in the bar, and pretty soon we were a drinking club with a hiking problem. But yeah, it will be very funny to see the man getting into the gym with Kelly Remus. Awesome. Let's make this happen. And with that, I'm gonna bring episode 266 to a close. Thank you for joining us once again, Ryan. Paul, fuck you. I love you, buddy. We will see you all next week. Yeah, man. Yo, Joe.
Berg.